So yeah, in the last video, which is the first in this playlist, I basically explained the need to get DRS data and how to go about doing that from Cricksheet. I hope you're able to understand what is the main reason behind the playlist and how we're going to access the Cricksheet data. On the screen, what you're looking at is a Collab notebook, which have obviously shared the link to that Collab notebook so that you can try it at your end to see how those results are coming and let me know uh, what is your success with this kind of exploration. So in this video, I'm going to cover some basic Python techniques on what you can use to extract TRS data in the form of this table. So remember in the last video I showed you that JSON file which is kind of cluttery and nobody can really make any sense of it. But if you're able to see it in this kind of a table, which is much more human readable, this is going to be easier to do more analysis on top of that as well. So with no further ado, I'll step through the different code cells in this notebook. And before I do that, I'll just restart my runtime so that I can step through this code step by step and explain you at each step what is happening. So the first step is we'll have to import a few packages. These are all pretty basic Python packages, pandas and requests and JSON, pretty much off the shelf. No need to do any special installations. The next part is where we'll be storing our our uh, Excel or CSV output files, whichever we're going to get at the end of this activity of extracting the DRS data. So the first thing is, as I showed in the last video, Cricsheet provides data from different formats. So I'm just taking three formats here, the three main formats, the test ODIs and T20Is for now. So this is a small drop down which you can play around later when you want to extract data for other formats. So I'll just keep it at the default test format for now, because obviously amongst the three formats, the test format has the most number of DRS instances, so it lends itself for better analysis. And the data path is just a variable on which you will be storing the files on the left, as you can see. That's where the files are going to come and be stored. I've just made certain paths for each of them. This is nothing but the URL which under which the JSON files are there. As you can see in this hover in the bottom left of the screen, you can see the URL which comes there. So that's the URL corresponding to each format which has been written here. There is also uh, a small list which basically just is for cleaning purpose. It's just to identify which innings each DRS in event happened in, and these are just some commands to make that uh, path on the side. Um, Not so important. You can just run through that directly. It shouldn't cause any issue. The next is an important step, which takes the dependency out of your local machine. So you might not have space to download a lot of these files. So that's the good thing about Collab here. It provides you a free runtime as well as a good decent amount of storage space as well. And as you can see, it's pretty good with what it offers uh, as an out-of-the-box offering. The RAM and memory is the RAM and the disk storage space is pretty good for all these tasks which we are going to be working on. So just step through this code. What it's going to do, it's going to download that zip file, whichever you saw in the URL, and it's going to extract those into a particular path. So I'm extracting the test file. So as you can see here, I've named it the test. So what it's going to do, it's inside the temp folder. It's just going to extract all the files under the test directory. So it's going to take some time here to show all the files. But essentially what it has is all the JSON files of each match that went by. I showed you an example of the JSON file in the last video. So if you lost track of what that JSON file looks like, do check out the previous video so you'll get some context again. So all the files are now inside the temp directory under the test folder. So the next function, it's a pretty big one, but essentially what it's doing is uh, so I've been playing around with Cricksheet data a lot, so I know how this set of files is going to be. So a lot of JSON files. So there are about 680 odd test matches today, which for which Cricksheet has data all the way from 2004. So when I'm talking about DRS data, I'm only interested anyways from around 2008 onwards, which anyway we have data inside Cricksheet, so that should not be a problem. What this does, I will show you in a moment as I step through that, but this is just a helper function to just kind of clean up a few Cricksheet data. You would have seen this function in some of my previous videos as well. The next one is very important. It's what it's going to help to extract match metadata. So as you saw in the JSON earlier, uh, there is a lot of information about each match, where it happened, what was the date of the match, what's the tournament in which it happened, etc. So whatever information you want from this JSON, you just use that snippet there over here to just extract whatever you want out of that. So as you can see here, I'm extracting a lot of things from that JSON dictionary. It's just basically stepping through each of the JSONs and getting the relevant keys out of it. But essentially what I'm looking at is there is a match ID they maintain. There's a city of the match where it happened, the date, the tournament. These are some things which I'm just extracting. So you can just run through that. You wouldn't be needing to change a lot of these things. So the next one is where the list comes through. So in Cricksheet, the innings numbers are just basically 0, 1, 2, and 3, representing the first, second, third, and fourth innings. So we don't want that. We want a more like a textual representation of who is batting and what exactly is happening. So if India and New Zealand are playing and India won the toss and chose to bat, we want to be able to say that the first innings was India first innings and the second innings was New Zealand first innings, etc. So it's just a simple logic just to segregate each team and the order in which the innings was played by each of those teams. So I've written a lot of documentation, as you can see. You can just go through that and you'll be able to understand more about how this works. So this is the most important function of this notebook. It's going to basically uh, parse through the match data and get all the relevant DRS information from each of them. And as you can see here, I made lists for each of them. It's going to get which innings, which ball, who's the batter who's facing at that point, who's the bowler who bowled it, and who's the non-striker, the umpire, the team which took the DRS, what happened as a result of that, what was the decision. It can be either uh, with upheld or struck down, whether there was an umpire's call on that ball, whether a wicket fell off that ball, and if a wicket fell off that ball, what was the type of the wicket which fell. It mostly would be an LBW, but it can also be a caught behind in some cases. So that's pretty much it. This is basically the logic which passes through each of the dictionaries. So you don't need to worry too much about this because it's going to run pretty much when you are going to run this function at your end. It's hopefully going to work, fingers crossed, with no glitches and no bugs. It's just going to give you the output which you saw earlier in the form of a neat table. So this is the pre-process Cricsheetdf, that match DF. So what it does is you can take a look at their file, their README text file that's going to contain a list of all the games with the game IDs which happened across different dates. So that process Cricsheetdf function is basically helping you to arrive at a more cleaner solution and get a list of all the games. As you can see, as of the date of this recording, the last test match which happened was the first Ashes test between England and Australia. So that's the last test at this which the Cricksheet database is having. And the first test which they have recorded is back in March 2004. This is between Australia and Sri Lanka. So you can see the range of this data is quite extensive, and it's definitely worth for analyzing and getting DRS data, because as we all know as cricket fans, DRS was introduced only in 2008 onwards, so it's not at all a problem. And what is happening next is basically I'm just iterating through each of these matches in the list, going to these particular JSON files, extracting all the JSON information. So I'm just going to be calling this DRS events of match on the match data function. So as you can see here, for each of the files in the match list, I am just loading that match data from the corresponding JSON file, which is there in that temp directory I showed you earlier. And I'm just getting the match, I'm just invoking the get match metadata just to give additional context on where the match happened, who was playing the match, etc. So those things which I already showed you. And it's just going to concatenate all those things into one big table for us to be able to see. There are a couple of exceptions which happen, but we can safely ignore that because there are about 685 games and there are problems with only two of the games. We can sort it out manually if you see a need. So that's the reviews data frame, as you can see here in this snippet, all the way from back in 2008 onwards to the last DRS event which happened uh, at the GABA last week. So it's pretty much uh, that's the essence of this playlist actually, and it's good to see that Cricksheet is making such kind of rare kind of data available, and people can build more analysis tools on top of this, because DRS as an area has been hotly debated, and we would want more of cricket analysts to pick this up. And I hope my video can be a small starting point for those who are still figuring out how to get different DRS related data. So I hope I've done a, a decent job in helping you understand. Even if you have some trouble, just go through the couple of videos in this playlist once again, and do leave your comments in the comment section. I'll try to actively participate and get some feedback on it, and otherwise you can also connect with me on Twitter. So the last step is just a simple step. I'm just saving this into a path, into that data path I created. So that's just going to save that reviews file onto that temp folder on the left. So then you can just download that onto your system. As you can see here, it's just here, and you can just right click and download. So you'll get that Excel file, after which you can continue to work on different kinds of analysis. So I hope you guys have enjoyed seeing this, and I hope you can get to playing around with this and suggesting new things which I might not have covered. And I think there are a few things which we can optimize in this as well. So if you come across anything, any kind of improvements to this, please do let me know, and also any kind of other sources which help to complement with this. So one thing I can think of is on each ball, if we can get the corresponding commentary text for each of the instances, we will be able to get a better insight on what exactly happened on each of those. But I think for starters, this kind of a table is going to be pretty helpful for us to analyze how decision reviews system was being used by different teams, different umpires, different players, etc. So thank you for watching this video, and do like, share, and subscribe to my channel, Cricket Data, and I hope to bring you more content soon. Thank you.